find one. I don't know.
You need the camera cases there?
Yeah, they have them.
Sorry. One of these?
No, she puts them in there. I thought I did let her.
You're going to be standing right here, okay? One of these kids will hand you this flag. You'll bring it, and then they're going to come up and help you hook it on, okay? And help you pull the rope, okay? And wrap it around. Sound good? She'll be right here.
Hey. You don't have a song for the national anthem.
Yes, you are. I don't think that got left off. I'm
Okay,
planning
good.
on it, yeah. So you want to be in place?
Yeah, like we'll come in.
Yeah, well, if you just walk in right there. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Haley. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
We're going to go out, then we'll turn back on.
Okay. Okay. Sir. You want to undo that now?
Yeah, they're gonna come up right here and then hand it and then go there. So I'll try to get around where I can get all these kids because I think they're all helping.
Sound good? Put the top one.
Oh, no.
You guys can, one of you guys is smart enough to do that, right? Pull that back, push it in there, right? Put it on.
Yeah.
Okay, remember, hook
Oh.
the top blue on.
Wow. That's so
Top blue on
fancy.
that one, and the bottom on.
Holy cow.
Okay, we ready? Okay. Okay. Come down, guys. And then, just like this thing right here.
Yes, they are. My goodness gracious.
Have camera one might have the angle on the kids at first and then come up. Whoever it was. Oh, who was that guy? He was all camouflaged.
Guys, hey, you might be blind and we're not. The other guy's good for you. Give him a chance.
I might just hang out on this side until we're past this part.
Testing. Good afternoon, everyone. If you can, there's a few seats available. This is fantastic. I was telling Mrs. Hancock,
I remember the first one of these, we held it in the cemetery on a little square of lawn that was free, and we wouldn't fit today. We're going to get ready to get started. If I could please have my my two students from Riverside Elementary, if you could come up, we'll get you ready to go. Are they over here? Ellie Felice and Hepler. Lincoln and Ellie Felice, are you here? We'll get them going. Test. 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 You want these handhelds, all right? Come right here. Folks, we're going to get started today with a little, here, come on this side of me, Ella Felicia, you'll make me look better. All right, these are two students from Riverside Elementary. Earlier in the year, they sang this song on September 11th. Thought it had a wonderful message, and I thought it'd be a great way to start our day. So this is Lincoln Hepler and Ellie Felice Segmiller. They're both fifth graders, and I hope you enjoy their message as we start our program today.
Sometimes I think about America, about her struggles through the years. I think of people who did what they had to do with the strength to act through their fears. Sometimes I think about America, about her future and her past. I know I'm blessed to be living in liberty in a land where freedom will last. For the heroes, for the patriots, for the soldiers, for all the pioneers. I will always be an American, and I'll always cry American tears.
Do you know what happened? Do you guys have any other music? Oh, yes. It's supposed to go on much longer. They get better and better. It was awesome already. I'm telling you what, we're going to dig around for the music. We might sing that at the end, too, because your life will be changed when you hear the whole thing. As you can tell already, I saw how you felt. We're going to work on that because they're just getting started, you guys. So anyway, we'll work on that. Stick around, all right? They're in the choir, so they'll be giving a hand, you guys. Thank you. This is one of those things, we don't get a dress rehearsal on any of this, and my pay has not changed in 15 years for doing this MC gig. So anyway, welcome to the Washington County Veterans Day program. I hope you enjoyed the parade, as the largest parade we've ever held. Thank you very much. Marcia Whitney, thank you for organizing the parade. It had pretty much every band in the district. We appreciate the Washington County School District. We appreciate the cities who have provided the funding to pay for the travel. And I believe we used every bus in Washington County to get so your tax dollars, I hope that's a good way to spend them. So thank you. We had fifth graders and we had all those bands. Thank you. My name is Principal Burke Staley. I'm principal at Riverside Elementary. I was also a member of B Battery, second of the 222nd Field Artillery, the Golden Boys, for 18 years. An artilleryman, so speak loudly if you see me. For years we've had a veterans committee. If I can say thank you to Susan Hancock. Where are you, Susan? Right here. Doing stuff like this all the time, holding umbrellas and making sure that the right spirit is always here. She's also in charge of the weather, because she's the most righteous person in the park right now. She's done a great job with that. So thank you, Susan. Also, thank you to my Aunt Kathy, Staley, and George. They do the dinner, and they do the veterans wagons, Mr. Kirkland, for all that you do there. This does not just happen. Thank you, Robert Schmidt from the district. You folks do great things. Folks, we are going to open with a prayer by Pastor Tom Mertz. Pastor Tom Mertz is also a veteran. He was a U.S. Navy Operations Specialist, second class petty officer. Pastor Mertz is the pastor at the South Mountain Community Church. Tom Mertz.
On behalf of my entire congregation, I just want to thank each and every one of you that served in the military to protect this country and to maintain our rights that are derived to us from God. And I would ask all of you, if you are able to do so, if you would not mind uncovering, and please stand with me for a word of prayer. Father in heaven, it is such an amazing blessing to live in the borders of a nation whose founders had the courage to recognize that our rights were not derived to us, attributed to us from our government, but that they are given to us solely by you. But at the same time, they had the fortitude, the courage to stand up and pledge everything up to and including their very lives in order to grant us a government that would not only protect those rights, but a government that would lead a people who would be willing throughout the years to sustain those rights. I thank you that we as a nation have been so blessed with men and women that were willing to serve in the uniform of this great country in order to make sure that this would be and forever would remain a free and prosperous land. I pray that your blessings would reside upon each and every one of our vets, but also I think of those that are serving even this very day on active duty in harm's way, or maybe not in harm's way. I pray that you would attend them with your protection, that you would always allow to beat within their hearts the knowledge that there is at the home front a people who love them, who pray for them, and who are willing to see them complete their service and return unharmed, unmolested to this great country. We thank you for each and every one of them. We pray that you would attend the remaining of this ceremony with your blessings, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could please have the flag team take their places. Children. I'd like to invite the Pineview High School Trilogy Choir to take their places. Today, for our flag ceremony, we will symbolically pass the colors from veteran to youth to veteran to youth. Just wait for just a second. We have a special veteran with us. We'd like to pay honor to him and thank him for his service. This is World War II combat veteran Clifton Spenlove. Clifton is 102 years old, served in World War II. He also served in Korea and Vietnam. He's here from Hurricane, Utah, and he will start the passing of our colors. Yeah, let's do that. Sorry. Let's do this. He'll come in sometime. Okay, here we go. We'll make it work. Thank you for being patient. Mr. Spenlove, Sergeant Spenlove, will you post the colors?
Will you please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me? Will you begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Canyon. It's Canyon Shamo from Washington Elementary. Thank you, Pineview High School Choir. You may be seated. Thank you. Riverside, can you make your way over here? Let's go. You're going to have to hustle. All right. Let me go through the remainder portion of our program. Our next number will be a choir number by the Riverside Elementary Choir entitled I See a Hero. The words to the song are in your program, and they have a wonderful message. Following the Riverside Elementary Choir song, we have a veterans response by Mr. Darren Allred. Let me tell you a little bit about Darren. Dr. Darren Allred is an orthopedic surgeon at Southwest Orthopedics and Sports Medicine here in St. George. He was born and raised in Monticello, Utah, and received his bachelor's degree from Southern Utah University, his medical degree from Midwestern University in Arizona, and his surgical residency in Ohio. He and his family then moved to Las Vegas, where he was a practicing surgeon in the U.S. Air Force Medical Corps at Nellis Air Force Base. Now, Dr. Allred had the distinct opportunity to deploy with the Special Forces in Afghanistan, where he treated orthopedic injuries of our servicemen, women, and the local Afghan people injured in conflict. Dr. Allred was awarded the Bronze Star Medal from Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force Afghanistan for meritorious service in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He loves Southern Utah and the patriotism and respect this community has for those who serve our country. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear from the Riverside Choir and then from Dr. Darren Allred, U.S. Air Force Medical Corps Major.
Thank you. We're going to try to avoid passing this back and forth so many times, so we're going to try it from here. Thank you for that kind introduction. It is truly my honor, and I'm humbled to be able to share this day with you and share some of my thoughts about Veterans Day and being a veteran. Veterans Day is a special day. It's a holiday that we honor all of the men and women who have served our country, or will serve our country, or are currently serving in any of the armed forces. That's the Army, Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. I recently returned from a week-long journey visiting and learning about some of our country's earliest soldiers, fighters of our nation, and protectors of our freedom. I visited places like the Civil War battlefields, where 50,000 soldiers were killed at the Battle of Gettysburg on July 1st through 3rd, 1863, and the Battle of Antietam, the bloodiest single day in our nation's history, where 22,717 soldiers died in a single day. I also visited some of the key Revolutionary War battlefields in Valley Forge, where the Continental Army the Continental Army's desolate winter camp, where they had little food and clothing to get through that harsh winter. While serving as in active duty in the Air Force, I also have the privilege of spending 6 months in Afghanistan with the Special Forces and taking care of these men and women injuries. As I reflect back on these experiences, it reminds me that our freedom isn't free. It comes at a price, a very large price, a price higher than most of us probably realize. It opened my eyes to the bravery that humans can possess in very hard situations, and that a good cause is worth fighting for. Have you ever wondered how we came about having Veterans Day? In 1918, at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, that is 11 o'clock on November 11th, the warring countries of World War I signed an agreement called the Armistice that brought an end to the war. United States President Woodrow Wilson made November 11th a holiday called Armistice Day to honor all the heroes that had died in World War I. Over time, the name of the holiday has changed to Veterans Day, and the purpose of this day was changed to honor all those who serve and are serving in the United States Armed Forces. Right now, as we gather today, thousands of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and coastmen are on duty around the world, protecting America and defending that which we hold so dear. As a prior soldier, my thoughts turn today to those amazing men and women. These soldiers are on ships, on submarines, on aircrafts, and on the ground around the world. They will be there when we sleep tonight. They will be there on Saturday, on Sunday, and every holiday this year. And they will be missing their friends and their family and their loved ones back home. For those veterans here today, please share your story with others. Let people know that what you have done so they can see the many faces of military service and appreciate the personal service and sacrifice. If you're not a veteran, find someone in your life that is a veteran and ask them about their service, or simply say thank you. The more we talk about the past and the impact military service has on our lives, the better able we are to hold it up as an example of excellence. To all the veterans here today, I sincerely thank you for your service and sacrifice. I share the pride you feel in being able to say you served in the greatest military in the world. Thank you all for choosing to honor veterans today and showing your support to our heroes, past and present. May God bless our veterans. May God bless all those who serve in harm's way. May God bless this community, and may God continue to bless America. Thank you.
Thank you. In the fifth grades across the district, we have an essay contest, and I failed to announce our essay contest winner. She's going to share her essay with us. Anya. This is Anya Jaggard. Anya Jaggard. Anya is from Bloomington Hills Elementary, and she's new to our community, just moved here from California this past year. Welcome to Washington County, and thanks for being such a good example. Anya is going to share her essay with us at this time. Following her essay, we are going to sing the Armed Forces medley together. That'll kind of shake us up a little bit, wake us up a little bit. Please, we invite you to stand and be recognized as your branch of the military, as your song is sung. And we invite you all to sing and clap along. Following the Armed Forces medley, we will hear a veterans tribute from our Congressman Chris Stewart, veteran of the United States Air Force. Anya.
Veterans are our heroes that choose to serve through love, devotion, and duty. Because they choose to join the military, they open a gateway to sadness that we will hopefully never have to experience. Some of these pains are through loved ones they missed, like when a child is born without them, or when they miss a family gathering because they are called to the ranks. Another emotional struggle is that when at home they can be called to war and never come back, so they must make every goodbye count as though it is the last they will ever say to their family. They can be at home for a long period of time and be caught off guard. While all their jobs are dangerous on the extreme, there's almost always a good chance of death. Put in mind that all that go through this have actually survived the intense training of the military. These trials may seem difficult, as they are, but compared to the mental and sometimes physical challenges that occur after they have been released, these challenges seem small and even insignificant. Most veterans' jobs are scary, as there are very little desk jobs, and most of the time there is fighting that usually can scar a veteran's mind permanently, replaying constantly with anything that is related to military life, such as a crowd, someone crying, or even a scab or cut. Other challenges for veterans include that if two friends are fighting and one dies in battle, it would be hard for the other friend to remember that person without sadness. One of the physical challenges would be if the veteran lost a limb and was looked at differently for the rest of his or her life. In conclusion, veterans make many sacrifices to protect us, and they deserve our love and support for keeping us safe.
United States Army. United States Navy. United States Coast Guard. United States Air Force. United States Marine Corps.
Oh my, what an honor. What an honor to be with you today. You hear that music, and you know what I can absolutely promise you? There has never been in the history of the world a military as powerful or as honorable as that of the United States Air Force, and the United States Army, the United States Marines, and the Coast Guard. There's never been anything like it. For those of us who've had the opportunity to serve, I represent all of you in saying thank you. Which one did we forget? The Navy, thank you. I knew I forgot one, my gosh. All right, well, I just lost all the votes from all the Navy guys here. Hey, take a look behind and see what a beautiful thing those of us up here are looking at with those flags back there. And these young people here in the younger elementary school that we heard from earlier. Again, what an honor it is. Principal Staley, thank you for the invitation. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. Major Allred, representing veterans as well. It's an honor to be with you, and perhaps most importantly at all, as we honor Sergeant Spendlove, who is sitting up here at the beginning of front of the stage here. 102 years old. Some of you see that I have on these Air Force wings. I served for 14 years as a pilot in the Air Force, but these are actually my dad's Air Force wings. He was a pilot in World War II as well. He was a few years younger than Sergeant Spendlove. He would have turned 100 actually within a few weeks from now. He's no longer with us, of course, like most of the World War II veterans. But having him in my life and the example that he set for me was very powerful. In fact, he had 10 kids, he and my mom, 6 sons, 5 of us served in the military. It's deep in our family's DNA. We have people right now, nephews and nieces that are deployed. One of them on his 4th deployment for a year. Tremendous sacrifice that we see, and we're going to talk about a little bit about today. I got to say just quickly, how it was I came to find myself in the Air Force. When I was very young, my dad made a mistake. We used to farm together. I grew up ranching and farming, and we'd be out milking cows. In fact, I remember I said this earlier in an event. I remember being out milking cows and singing the Air Force song with my dad as he taught that to me. Now, for a young guy, back then, and I got to say this kind of delicately because there's some young people here, but the original words to that second verse is, "Off with one hell of a roar." And I remember as a 7-year-old, that was so cool because I got to swear and no one got mad at me. So I'd always say, "Dad, can we sing the Air Force song?" And then I'd with a lot of gusto there. But when I was about 16, my dad said to me once, hey, we were out at the ranch. He said, "Chris, I think you ought to think about being in the Air Force. I think you'd enjoy it. I think you'd like flying." But I was a rebellious young guy, and when my dad said something that he thought was a good idea, that immediately for me made it a bad idea. So I kind of set it aside, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. And it wasn't until my senior year of college I thought I was going to go to law school. In fact, I'd started applying to law schools. I was driving from Provo, where I was going to school, up to see my parents in Cache Valley, and I stopped at Hill Air Force Base there on a kind of an empty field, and I watched the F-16s take off and land, and that is a beautiful thing. And it's loud and powerful and noisy, and there's a lot of real thrill to it. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to fly. I want to be like my dad. I want to be like my brothers. I want to serve my country. So I went home and asked my wife. I said, listen, instead of going to law school, how would you feel about going into the Air Force and serving in the military? And she goes, dude, that's a terrible idea. Why would we do that? Because she knew that it would be a sacrifice. She knew it'd be harder on her, it'd be harder on our kids. And in many ways it was. But if my wife was standing here today, I promise you, she would tell you, like me, that was in many ways the best years of our lives. The friends that we made, the places we went, the things that we were able to do, nothing that we've done since then has really come close to that. And it was formative for us and for our young family at the time. Again, we considered it a great, great blessing, but it did not come without some sacrifice. Now, my family sacrificed very little. None of us were injured. I was certainly never injured and certainly didn't pay the ultimate price. I was deployed, I would be gone, and that was hard. And that reminds me something that I do every single time we talk about our veterans, and that is you have to talk about our veterans' families. Because when you talk about a young soldier, Major Allred, when you were gone and you deployed, how long were you gone for? 6 months. And you have a family and children, I'm supposing, and your wife and your kids, if you have any. Do you? There you go. Your wife and your children were willing to say to you, Dad, it's okay, go serve your country, we'll be here. But they're home by themselves. And it's hard for them. And whether it's a young mother or in some cases a young father, it's young kids, it's brothers and sisters and mom and dads who in many cases every day pray that their son or daughter will be kept safe because they know that they're in a dangerous situation. And they have to be recognized and thanked for their sacrifice as well. I use the term American exceptionalism all the time. And I've been told I shouldn't use that word. I've been told by some that it's offensive or that it's too prideful or that it means something else, and it doesn't. When I say American exceptionalism, I'm not saying that we are better than another nation. I'm recognizing the fact that there's an extraordinary responsibility that we have borne for generations now. There is something special about this nation, and I think, frankly, God just intended it to be that way. And you have to be ignorant of history not to recognize the incredible role that we have played in the world for going on nearly 200 years, but especially for the last 100 years. The United States military, I started out by saying, it is the most powerful force that the world has ever seen. It just simply is. There's nothing that's ever been close to it. But we don't use that power to conquer another land. We don't use that power to conquer or enslave another people, and we could, but we don't. The only thing we use that power for is to free other people, is to free other lands. It's the only thing we have ever done with that power. And then as Colin Powell, who I love when he described, the only thing we've ever asked is for a small pasture where we could bury our dead. It's the only thing we've ever asked of these nations, that we have sacrificed blood and treasure and some of the finest young men and young women ever in this country. The only thing is to ask is where can we bury them? Military cemeteries all over the world. Some of you have had the chance to visit them. That is sacred ground. You see these identical markers, row after row after row of these identical markers. And very limited information. The only thing they have on there in almost every circumstance is just the name and the day they died. And there's a sign over one of the cemeteries in Europe that I love. I'm going to quote this for you, this poem. It's very short, but you have to kind of listen carefully because the verbiage of it is a little complicated. But it's got such a powerful message. It says, "Here dead we lie, because we did not choose to live, and shame that land from which we had come. Life, to be sure, is nothing much to give, but young men think it is, and we were all young." For those of us who are older, for those of us who have lived most of our lives, the thought of death carries something less significance, less fear, less importance to us. But for someone who's 18 or 20 or 24, like so many of these cemeteries are filled with these young people, they had their whole lives before them. They gave up all of that, as they said, so that they could not shame the land, but defend the land from which they'd come. I'm going to give two examples just very quickly, and then I'll conclude. But these are two stories that are worth hearing. One of them is from, actually, the Utah National Guard. And was mentioned earlier, the Triple Deuce. If I were to ask this group, how many of you have served in the Triple Deuce or had some of your family served, a lot of you would raise your hands. One of the finest guard units in the entire country. Now, there was a young man, again, it wasn't from the Triple Deuce, but he was from the Utah National Guard, and he was injured severely in Iraq. And I'm proud to say my brother-in-law is General Tarbot, who was the commander of the Utah National Guard. And this young man was so severely injured, he was immediately medevaced to Ramstein, and then they moved him very quickly to Washington, D.C., where he went through this long, long ordeal of having to rebuild his body as best that they could. His arm was nearly severed, parts of his leg, and other injuries as well. And after a couple weeks, General Tarbot was able to go meet with him, and my sister went with him. And they walked into the room, and this young man is barely conscious, and he knows he's got a long, long fight ahead of him. And the first thing he says to General Tarbot, the first thing he says was, "General, when can I go back?" Now imagine that. This is someone who has lived through now weeks of pain, knowing he's going to live through months of pain, and he may never be the same. And the first thing he wants to do is go back. And Brian had to tell him, "You're never going back." And they talked about that for a little bit, but after a while, Brian asked him, said, "Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to go back and serve in combat?" And this young man has an answer that I think is just powerful, and it shows what's on our mind and what is our values. He said, "Because no one else can protect my soldiers as good as I can." He wasn't thinking about himself. Even then, he wasn't thinking about himself. Even in the midst of all that, he was thinking about his soldiers and how he felt that responsibility to still serve with them and to still help protect them. One other story, if I could. Again, from about the same time frame, about the same place in Iraq. It was in Fallujah. This is a very, very dangerous neighborhood. This was before the surge. It was a very dangerous place to be, a very dangerous city. And on a Sunday morning, some Americans were out on patrol, and they were in these kind of ghetto streets where it was dusty and run down and not a good place to be. Very hot. And the streets were nearly empty, which made them cautious. They knew that something was amiss, something was up, because normally the streets would be full of people, but they weren't, and so that made them worry. And they came upon a vehicle, a car there, that was locked and the windows were rolled up, and inside the vehicle in a seat was about a 2-year-old baby. And they tried to unlock the doors, and they tried to get into the car, and they couldn't. And they went around to the surrounding villas there, the surrounding houses, tried to find anyone who would identify and could claim this child, and no one did. In fact, no one answered their doors at all. And they knew that the child couldn't survive in there. It was just too hot. It would bake this little baby. And so they called the command post and said, "We're going to break the window and we're going to get this baby out." And the command post started to tell them, "Don't do it." But one of them had already done. He broke the window, and as soon as he did, the instant he did, the car bomb went off. They had planted a bomb inside this car, knowing that these soldiers would try to rescue this child. And I think there were 2 people killed, and there were maybe half a dozen wounded from that. Now, that's a terrible sacrifice to pay. And then someone was asked, one of these soldiers was asked, "Why are you here? Why do you do it?" And he says, "You know what? We're just trying to help. We just want to help. Now that's an example. They were there just to help. They weren't there to hurt anyone. They weren't there to claim any great victory. They were just there to help. They don't do it for money. They don't do it because they don't have anything else to do. I promise you, these young soldiers, these young veterans that we're honoring today are some of the most capable young men and young women in the country. By heavens, any company would be glad to have them. They have opportunities, most of them. They don't do it to become heroes. No one goes into this thinking, I'm going to be a hero. They don't do it for an excitement adventure, although there's some of that. Most of them do it because they just want to help. They just want to serve. I wish I could tell you the world was not a dark and dangerous place. The truth is that it is, and it's becoming ever more so. But because we have young people that are willing to serve, willing to sacrifice, that want to help, that want to go back, that want to do their part, we can be free. God bless them. God bless them all. And as always, God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to announce the remainder of the program. I'm going to make a small change. We are going to, first of all, hear a Pilgrim song from the Pineview High School Trilogy. Following the Pineview High School Trilogy, we will have a tolling of the bells. I'll ask you to stand quietly, and we'll toll the bells and have a moment of silence. Then we'd like to ask Ellie Felice and Lincoln to come back up and share that song as our closing song. And then our closing prayer will be given by Sergeant Farron Holt, also a former member of the Washington County School District, Fine Arts Director. Had a lot to do with the success of what our bands and those folks do in our district. So let's hear from Pineview High School, and then we'll toll the bells. Mr. Reimer. Thank you. If you could all please stand and remove your covers. Each year we like to take the opportunity to remember those veterans who have passed on this past year and all those who have gone on before us. And so at this time we'd like to have a moment of silence and also toll the bells in honor of those fallen veterans. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pineview. Thank you. So we've come full circle. In your program, if you have a program, the words to this song are written. The name of this song is called American Tears. Again, I think one of our goals of this Veterans Day and our Veterans Day committee is that we involve the youth and we remind them of that freedom isn't free. These two youth, I think, represent that. I hope you enjoy this song. Following this song, we'll have a closing prayer by Farron Holt. Following the program, we have a nice dinner for veterans, for your families. It's kind of loaves and the fishes food down there. We'll have enough, all right? I say that every year. We always have enough. So if you'd like to come and enjoy a nice meal, and the Washington Elementary Choir sings on the old Washington Elementary stage, and it's pretty classic. So we would like to invite any of you that would like to come down and have a nice catered meal in the old gym. And so this is Mr. Hepler and Miss Sigmiller, and they're going to share the whole version of American Tears. I hope you enjoy it. I think it's a wonderful way to end this program.
Sometimes I think about America, about her struggles through the years. I think of people who did what they had to do with the strength to act through their fears. Sometimes I think about America, about her future and her past. I know I'm blessed to be living in liberty in a land where freedom will last. For the heroes, for the patriots, to be for our democracy, for the world we live in today, for the heroes, for the patriots, for the soldiers, for all the pioneers. I will always be an American, and I'll always cry American tears. I'll always cry for the heroes, for the patriots, for the soldiers, for all the pioneers. I will always be an American, and I'll always cry American tears. Always cry. Yes, I will always be an American, and I'll always cry American tears. I will cry American tears.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful for the opportunities and the freedoms that allow us to have these type of celebrations in this wonderful land that we are a part of. We give thee thanks for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice that we may have this opportunity. Please be with and bless their families. Watch over us as citizens. Prompt us to serve one another with good and enduring faith, that we might be able to keep this country free. Despite our diversity and the challenges that we have, wilt thou please bless us through these challenges. We give thee thanks that we are here and able to enjoy this wonderful time together. In the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.